What's going on here in the Beat Sessions? I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend so far. Want to kick the week of March 3rd off with Slowthai and this new record, Ugly. This is his third studio album and his follow-up to 2021's Tyrone. And this dude, one of my favorite rappers out there right now, he is incredible. I did not expect what we are getting on this record, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's I don't know how fans of him are going to feel about this, honestly. It's a post-punk record. There's all these influences of alternative rock. There's some industrial textures. There's all sorts of madness going on. And in between all that, he finds some time to rhyme and do his thing. But for the most part, there's some great vocal performances on this record. The dude, all things considered, can sing pretty well. I really like the way he's putting together melodies that work to the strength of his voice. I think that any artist that's able to do that, recognize those types of nuances, that's what makes a great artist. It's finding what you do well and playing to your strengths. This record is intense. It's passionate. It's the record that he describes as the one that he always wanted to make, but just didn't have the tools before to do it. And now he does. Third album. This guy's got quite a reputation, kind of incendiary. He's done a few things that have definitely caught the eyes of some people and caught some headlines. But for the most part, I think just a really talented, insightful young guy battling with his demons on this record. This is a pretty moody record. I think the post-punk feel of this thing fits the tone of the album, the lyrics, and what he's exploring, going through a lot of personal stuff. I feel like the tension that most people his age feel when they're growing out of their youth and growing, into adulthood and, battling the task of being married or being a parent or all those things. Maybe your job demands more time of you, whatever it might be. There's this schism that happens right around your mid-20s and into your late 20s. I feel like if you do life right, and it's that recognizing of, the good times, those just tearing it up till the sun comes up every single night, every single weekend. You can't do it anymore. It's not good for you. It's going to tear you down. But in the end, it's not easy to give up. It's letting go of your youth, and that's it's easier said than done. So I love this record. I think that battle that he's dealing with, that he's sorting out in the lyrics on this record, are something that all of us can relate to. And the music is intense. I think that this is something that you might need to find yourself in a mood to get through it. But it's 12 great songs, close to 40 minutes on the runtime, and there's just a really cool run of songs. He talks about the way that this thing came together versus the first two records. There was a process as far as writing and focusing on the way things were going to be put together and the way things that would run from start to finish. In this particular record, he talks about how he just came together with friends and just jammed. And if they liked something, they recorded it live. And it's basically the way this whole thing came together. And it's incredible when you think about kind of just the desultory, I guess is the way to describe it. But, just going into the studio and being like, let's write some tracks and just see what happens. For just doing that, this record is really damn cool, and I'm very impressed with it. And I think that this is the highlight of the weekend for sure. In a week that was kind of weird. The last week was kind of weird. There haven't been as many solid albums recently as there has been in the last few years. Definitely, we've all been spoiled. It was coming off of COVID. There was a really great stretch of creativity there, and I think all of us recognize that. And I'm glad that we all got to experience that. It's one of the bright things to come out of that whole nightmare. But this record is a highlight. This is definitely one of the best records of the year so far, in my opinion. I'm absolutely loving what's going on in this thing. Yum. You talk about that just improvisation. And this is one of those songs that he talks about, like, he just felt like an intense mood. And you could feel it immediately. There's like this pulsating synth comes in with this light production, but then these harder synths come in with the vocal. There's this heavy breathing, this recitative element in the vocal, an industrial feel ultimately that takes over in the electronics. But really cool build and the intensity throughout the song. It's a pretty good indication of what the rest of the album is going to feel like. Not quite as intense as this track, but I love it. I love the honesty and the vulnerability that's there, and I think it's a really dope way to kick this thing off. Selfish is your second track. Fuzzy electro element that gives way to a great beat. I really just love the way that takes over. There's alternative rock, post-punk on this thing, electro funk. It carries this really great dark mood that is nice coming off of Yum. It's not quite as intense, but like lyrically, it's pretty much matching this whole thing lyrically. I would say is for the most part a pretty intense experience, and I enjoyed that. The dynamic of the intense lyrics with the post punk feel, all the industrial textures that are coming in, it's fabulous. Sooner is your third track. It opens with this like bouncy punk rock bass. I really like it, and then the electronics take over. And like the shift, these quick movements in the compositions are one of my favorite things. They're fun, they're playful, and they work. Like everything he's doing on this record, I feel like is just working. It's so damn solid. I really like the way that this song moves in and out of those elements, the electronic elements and kind of that punk rock dynamic. That's the intro of the song. And then the hook, oh, what a waste of time! It's I love the melody there. It's really nicely done. One of my favorite tracks, not my favorite, but very solid. Feel good. Your fourth track got the stomping drum and vocal to open this thing. The bass rips in, and then the vocal rides along with that. It's a really cool feel of the song. I really like the way that this thing hits and then the percussion fills in. You get these hand claps that kind of lead in before that percussion fills in, and it's great. And this is where like I really was like, oh, his singing voice is pretty damn good. I enjoyed it very much. The melodies that he's working with, it's just solid. There's a great groove in this song. It's got this nice alternative rock feel. A lot going on. A super fun composition. Never Again, your fifth track. It's got this dope jazzy little feel that kicks this thing off. Piano and this bass just sort of like drift and float along together. It's really a nice change of pace. The percussion comes in on this thing. It hits perfectly. And then as the song moves on, you get more of like a break beat. The song builds in, that works in and out. And then the coda on this thing is mellow, and it's really pretty too. And this is a sad song. This is one of those things that you're not getting the intensity, but I think that in its vulnerability, it matches I guess intense sort of punk rock and industrial electro feel of some of those early tracks. And it's a great balance. I really dig it. Fuck It Puppet is your sixth track. This is like kind of like a little interlude. It's a hot track, and it's really kind of the only moment that we see on this album that it really has a feeling of hip hop. But there's some psychedelic elements that working on this thing. There's this spooky back and forth vocal that's kind of creepy. It's almost kind of like he's working things out in his head with, the angel and the devil. It's an interesting kind of little interlude, so to speak. Happy, your seventh song. Really, really dig this track. This is my favorite. It's just got this driving alternative rock feel. A lot on this thing that reminds me of bands like TV on the Radio. I'm thinking of a band like Block Party 2 is someone that came to mind a lot on this record. And, and Ty talks about his influence with the alternative rock scene and a lot of other things that went along with that. And frankly, there's so much good music in general that's always come out of England, but you talk about the post-punk drive. There's so many bands. Black Midi is really the first one that comes to mind because of the intensity of this project. But I'm definitely feeling a band like that, and I imagine that slowthai has probably listened to Black Midi and vice versa. But just a great hook and Happy, really just a phenomenal song. Ugly is your eighth track. Got this synth wash and this vocal intro to kick things off. Light percussion hits. The production on this thing is really interesting. It stays just really quiet and restrained. It's another spooky track. I feel like that production kind of gives the track that feel. It's nicely done. It's very interesting. The hook I dig on this thing when he's spelling out ugly, UGLY. It's really, really catchy and another great moment on this thing. Falling is your ninth track. It's got this lingering alternative rock riff. And it gives way to the bass in the intro. I really like the way that there's just like this switch, and then it's interesting. It's minimal, and it's got this great grunge and rock ride feel. Which I mean, those things I don't feel like they always go together necessarily. But there's some psychedelic elements on this thing. The textures that work in as far as the psychedelic element and that riff that this song just rides and continues to play on is definitely the highlight. I thought it's just a super cool guitar riff. Great song. What's funny is your 10th track. You got this pulsating synth that leads this industrial texture in, but then it just like the drums and the guitars come right in, and you got this balance of this like fuzzy industrial texture with this punk rock element. And this is that moment where, especially when the chorus hit, I was thinking of a band like Block Party a lot. And I dug the way that this song is. The back end of this album is really phenomenal, especially I'd argue. Tourniquet, your penultimate track, back to that mellow feel that we got in Never Again. Kind of predictable coming at this moment, I feel like, with the penultimate track. Maybe my only criticism of this thing. You kind of see it coming, but it doesn't matter because you settle back into that groovy jazz feel. And it's just, there's psychedelic elements here. There's this intense vocal, though, to kind of balance all that out. It's a very unique song. Big build and just a wild coda on this thing. I love the way that this thing builds and finishes and leads into your final track, 25% Club. Mellow acoustic guitar. You get this electronic percussion that mimics congas. It's a really cool track. Again, kind of minimal, coming off the the opening part of Tourniquet there. This album, it just blew me away. Probably the biggest surprise of 2023 so far, and definitely a vinyl please. I can see this thing easily being in my top 10 given the way that the year's kind of gone, but I don't want to say that about this record. I don't feel like that this record is a highlight because the rest of the music hasn't been that great. This is just a really damn good record. Again, you might need to find yourself in the right headspace to handle some of the intensity of it, but if you get there, you're going to love this thing. We're going to vinyl please it. Hope you enjoyed this record. Hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help Keith, MB, and I blow this thing up in 2023. Tune into the live show on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.